We just got the Season 2 trailer for Hazbin Hotel coming to Amazon Prime on October 29th. So let's get into my breakdown and everything you might have missed. Now the trailer actually starts in heaven with the reveal that things are probably going to have a bit of an inverted dynamic compared to Season 1. Season 1 was about the angels basically wanting to kill as many sinners as possible, but Sir Pentious proved that sinners can get into heaven, and the Hazbin crew proved that angels could be killed in general, and that flips the dynamic of what's going on here. First, we get Vox talking about how there is going to be war. This is different from the exterminations before, which were just massacres, with the people of hell now knowing that angels can be hurt or even killed, and there's going to be a battle against them. With this, we get shots of heaven, with what looks like Sarah charging up a powerful beam, and then walking among many exorcist angels in hell during an extermination. But if I had to guess, that would make these shots in hell with Sarah probably a flashback, while the shots of her in heaven take place in the present. While it seems like being among the extermination would be a duty she takes over with Adam gone, we're not jumping that far ahead into the future in this trailer, it seems, and it seems those duties are really meant to be passed down to Abel. So I like to believe that these shots of Sarah in hell are actually from a long time ago, before she decided to separate herself from the situation. My theory is that this is a flashback scene with Sarah questioning if what she is doing is right, perhaps being guided by this mysterious golden light flying around with the exorcist who keeps appearing. In these early shots, Vox talks about how war is going to be starting soon, and we see Sarah charging up that magic beam, and it does hit Pentagram City, but it doesn't appear to be an attack the way Vox is describing. Instead, the only thing destroyed is the Pentagram City clock tower. This is important because it's the clock that counted down to the annual extermination starting over each year. With Sir Pentious now in heaven, Sarah can't bring herself to continue with this, and it seems like she's actually destroying the tower to mark the end of the exterminations. And this is where the dynamic gets flipped. Despite this being an actual act of peace, Vox wants to push for a war to happen anyways because he just wants to kill the angels and take power for himself. And a lot of different demons seem to be aligning with Vox's interest. Emily isn't being kept away from the Hazbin Hotel's business anymore either, but throughout the trailer we see that she's actually an active force there, hanging out with Charlie in hell. It makes it pretty clear that Sarah and Emily agreed to tell Charlie about Sir Pentious and how successful her plan was, which is really going to mess everything up. You see, in the trailer we got the dialogue that people don't think the hotel is for redemption. They don't want to go to heaven like Sir Pentious, they just want to fight the angels and even kill them. This would have been great for the last extermination where Charlie actually needed the people's help, but now they aren't needed for this, and the angels are actually willing to accept these people into their home if they can get there. So the real conflict is now Vox trying to instigate war between heaven and hell because he thinks that in the end, he'll be able to rule over them both. This plays into the mindset of TV and movie studio execs, where it becomes very obvious when moving up to this job that you don't just control screens, you control what people think, and they can even cause massive wars with the way they spin a narrative on TV. But let's take a look at all of these more shot by shot. First, we had those shots of Sarah sending a beam of light with the help of some of the other angels. And we do know this shot to be in the present because in the wide shot where we see this beam go into the sky, we also see heavenly Sir Pentious watching this. Since heaven is just a planet in the sky of hell, sending a beam upwards can send that beam right into hell, which is exactly what we see later with the clock tower. During this, we also see a shot of Vox talking to Valentino and Velvet, who don't seem nearly as ambitious or intelligent as Vox at this point, both more so being slaves to their own industries and using Vox to be on top of their own slave pools. Here we see a shot of what we would expect of the beam of light coming from heaven and destroying the clock tower, though I'm sure some fans will still assume that these are unrelated clips possibly, as is often the case with teasers. But I believe the more misleading scenes are the ones with Sarah in hell, as I said before, which I believe to be flashbacks. An update, while editing this, our editor Haro noticed that this shot right here of Sarah sending a beam probably isn't the same shot of the beam going to hell from heaven. As in this seemingly related shot, it looks like it's creating a barrier of protection around heaven, so it looks like hell might be invading heaven instead of heaven invading hell. Following this opening, we see Charlie watching TV scared, the implication being that she just saw the tower being destroyed on the news, and like many citizens, would think it was an attack from heaven. Instead of heaven destroying the symbol of hell's oppression, the countdown to their extermination each year. This scene really may be unrelated to the actual tower collapse, but it's clear what the crew wants us to think of the season based on how they cut it. People assuming heaven isn't actually changing when it's trying to show that it is. And that leads to our first shot of the main Hazbin crew sitting around, with Angel, at least in this context, implying that Charlie is on drugs, though this scene in particular may be from a different moment entirely. In the Charlie shot, we also get a photo in the background of Lucifer, Lilith, and Charlie very clearly, pointing towards Lilith making a real appearance this season despite not being in the trailer. After all that, we get a montage of clips showing life at the hotel. While Cherry Bomb has grown closer with the crew in season 1, we see that she doesn't live at the hotel still, despite hanging out with Angel and the gang there. And when she needs to go elsewhere, she'll still just blow up a hole in the wall in order to make her exit instead of staying the night. You'll also notice that Kiki is always around, with Vivziepop claiming that she has a special purpose that will probably just randomly come together at some point very near the end of the story, making it important to just have her around and become more frequently appearing in the meantime. In this sequence, we get a nice musical number of Charlie welcoming people to the Hazbin Hotel. Even Vox and the V show up, but of course it's to play nice with Charlie in order to get footage and interview opportunities to twist the narrative in third direction, which is to kill Heaven instead of getting into Heaven. While here, Velvet calls the place tacky, which is rude, and Vox pushes the narrative away from redemption and asks if Charlie is really ready to protect the people and focusing on the idea of more conflict instead of less. One really fun thing of note here is that Vox said to Charlie that it's a pleasure to meet her. The two have never formally met before on screen, but we did see them cross paths on the set of Katie Killjoy's talk show all the way back in the pilot, which isn't 100% canon. Either way, this makes it the first time that they're really meeting, and that's always fun with Charlie, I think, because everyone she meets is so clearly evil, and she wants to think the best of them, but she also knows how hell works. Even when being interviewed by Vox, we can see in the crowd that Emily is already at the hotel, and so far isn't having such a negative reaction to what's being said. But again, with trailer editing, these two shots may be a bit more distantly related than implied, with Vox really asking something innocuous in the moments we see Emily smiling with glee here. And of course, with Pensius and Heaven, we also get the introduction of Baxter, something the promotional materials have been really hyping up for this year, with Baxter kind of being the new funny madman akin to Serpentius, as Nifty says in the trailer. What's crazy is even Kiki is offended by this apparently, and we see her tail become a giant monster mouth. Spliced into this montage of the promotional event at the hotel, we also have Alistair in a strangely bright shirt compared to normal. And if you look closely, it's probably because he's visiting Rosie. Rosie was a fan favorite in season 1, and there's obviously so much more to her story to explore, but it's interesting to see Alistair change his clothes for her. He's even eating a little finger in this shot, like Rosie had offered back in season 1. Finally, halfway through the trailer, we see Charlie making it well known that she learned the truth of Serpentius by saying redemption is possible while in front of his portrait. What's crazy is we even get some shots of Heaven in this where we see they love Serpentius there too, creating a giant balloon of him, which makes him look conflicted and nervous. One shot I know you will all love within that is the one of Emily posing with a bunch of angels, each a different type of animal-looking creature. This is the kind of shot that makes me get hundreds of comments begging me to break it down and figure out any real-life lore about them, even if there really isn't any. But they do look like a cool cast of friends. Following this, we get another major issue, however, with some guests complaining that they thought this hotel was for killing angels, not for getting into heaven. All of this really makes it feel like what we've seen in the trailer so far is maybe just the first episode or just the first 2 episodes, the setup for the season, which is really about this conflict. Vox himself stops playing nice really fast and begins putting together resist rallies where he wants to lead the movement against Heaven now, perhaps stepping in once he realizes he can't use Charlie as the figurehead as she has decided on peace or even sided with the angels now. This is great because instead of just a second conflict with Heaven in season 2's finale, we're likely building up to Charlie now having to side with Heaven, despite their horrifying history against the people she was first trying to protect. But at the end of the day, the only way to help them in the way that matters is to side against them and with Heaven in order to try and create an avenue for peace, even with a little bit more bloodshed. This is turning Hazbin Hotel into the epic we all originally knew it would be. A show that isn't multiple seasons of just rehashing the same loop until they're allowed to give their big ending. But already, we're seeing how the simple premise of these wacky characters living together is escalating to big political battles and wars, each conflicting with the previous battle, but Charlie finding herself trying to choose what is right each time. In all of this, Vox talks about how this isn't just a chance to rule, but to be gods, to control all of creation by seizing heaven, ruling hell, and then having control even over the earth. In this sequence, we see Vox walking up screen stairs with images of the people he hates on them, but it's all people he sees as more powerful than himself, specifically just Lucifer and Alistair. Anyone else, even if more powerful than Vox technically, doesn't have the sway that Vox has with his control over the media. And those two are the only ones stopping him from feeling like he really owns hell. As Charlie explains, however, Heaven doesn't want war anymore, and this needs to be stopped before it reaches the point of battle. In this, we even get a shot of Sarah, Emily, Abel, and somehow even Lute coming to Hell, seemingly with gifts of peace for the people, with Lute having a fancy golden arm, replacing the one that she previously lost in battle. Even Heaven is conflicted, however, because as soon as they get wind that Hell wants to actually fight back and kill them now, we see Sarah asking Abel what they should actually do. Though for the millionth time, this could be out of context, and he could really just be freaking out about knowing that Serpentius got into Heaven. What's really important is that we get characterization for Abel, where we see that he begins to cry and acts like he doesn't know what to do. Much different from his aggressive and confident father, who we see in flashbacks saying that he never really cared for Abel. Even Lute agrees here, saying that Abel is weak, setting us up for who knows what kind of reveals about their dynamics and roles once we get into the season. Finally, the trailer culminates with another musical number and montage, starting with Alistair talking shit to Vox, reminding him that he isn't even the strongest person in Hell, let alone Heaven, setting up an epic-looking fight scene between them where he tries to prove it. And update, another thing my editor noticed about this shot is that Alistair was seemingly left with a pretty harsh wound from his battle with Adam. In this sequence, we get the promise that a battle is coming despite Charlie's hopes to defuse it, with Sarah saying that they need to prepare the troops, Vox asking if angels want to play, and us even getting an amazing shot of Lucifer in his full fighting mode like we saw in Season 1's finale against Adam. As always, this looks epic as hell, but if you guys want more breakdowns, we'll be talking about Hazbin Hotel with each of its weekly releases, so make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss it, and leave a comment telling us your favorite shot from the new trailer in the comments down below. See you guys next time.